the deal? They met for 7 hours yesterday.
7 hours.
But this was an Ineos meeting.
Yeah,
and it was already pre-scheduled before all of this.
But isn't that like first the order of business, first thing on the agenda? Wouldn't you think so, Tone? I mean, what does this lull and this delay kind of say to you? Do you think this bodes well for Erik ten Hag, or is this curtains?
I think it bodes well, right? Because if you were going to get rid of him in the international break, wouldn't you have somebody right from the start? And why would you wait until the end or the middle? And you know, we're kind of all sitting here waiting for the other shoe to drop here with Erik ten Hag. Maybe they don't have plans to do that. Maybe part of the meeting was, how do we make this better? You're our guy, and I don't know, what else could you possibly think? And it's not gone great for the club, we know that. Or maybe Erik ten Hag just convinced them that he should stay. I don't know, but I wouldn't, Suzanne, I wouldn't be surprised if I woke up today and the decision was either way.
Yeah.
Neither would surprise me.
Yeah. How do you think it feels to be Erik ten Hag, knowing that literally everybody is talking about you? Everybody is talking about your future with this club, and you're kind of, I mean, you're just in this like sitting duck position. Like, I mean, what must that feel
like? How did it
like?
feel in the summer when they reached out and apparently got pretty far with Thomas Tuchel to take over the job, and then it broke down because of finances?
Like, you know, like the sound therapy things. Like, is he just in this like Zen world where he can?
You think right now he's just like,
At Manchester United, I mean, you can't. I feel like he's been defiant a lot of times with the media.
Certainly.
And very confrontational.
Defiant or just Dutch?
No, defiant. It's gone over just being that Dutch forthright that we were talking about yesterday. He's been defiant and very confrontational and clapping back at a lot of stuff. But I don't think he's ignorant. He must feel the heat. He must know the situation that he's in. And I don't think he would be surprised if they fired him or they stuck with him. It's a reality of that's what you get if you're the Manchester United manager, and time again it's happened. It hasn't only happened to him. We were doing the same conversation, maybe a little bit less aggressively because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wasn't as defiant with the media as he was. So, but same tone. Same tone.
This is interesting. Alexis, you pointed this out to us yesterday about the win percentage, and it's actually, I mean, the third highest.
I was like, you guys want a crazy stat?
Yes, yes.
And since Sir Alex Ferguson, he's the second best win percentage that they've had, which is kind of crazy when you think of everything, especially considering this is the worst start they've had. Obviously, you know, he's been there for a while, but when you look at this, the only idea I have in my mind, and Nico brought this up a while back, that if Ineos were to make a decision now, it's sort of, you know, turning the mirror back onto themselves, that they made a mistake in the summer. Maybe there's an opportunity to say, okay, sacking him now, regardless of the fact that it's the worst start we've had, there's some evidence to suggest maybe he should stay on. We just saw the stats as far as win percentage, obviously the trophies he's had. Maybe getting rid of him now without an actual backup plan, without a set plan, it destabilizes the club a little bit too much, and you can sort of leave him sitting there. And I'm gonna use an American idiom. He is, by all accounts, a lame duck manager at this moment. No one at this desk, there's one desk, no one at this desk believes that he will be the manager come next season, right?
Unless he somehow turns this thing around.
What does that mean?
Get into Europe at this point, right?
No, it's got to be Champions League.
No, yeah.
He's already in Europa.
Wins Europa League.
Yeah, I mean, they're not getting into Champions League. You know, but Sus, back to your question, I mean, you obviously were in sort of the coaching world, right? So you get an idea with me, like, coaches, in my experience with managers, when this stuff is going on, they have blinders on, right? Like, they're just going to work every day and trying to make it better because every manager, every coach thinks that they can correct the problem, right? They have a solution to correct the problem. Now, a lot of things have to fall into place. Your players have to play well. You have to have a good day. Maybe the opponent has to give you something on the day. But they just think that they can always fix players and fix teams. And does he hear the noise? Yeah, of course he does, right? There's no doubt. He can't drive to training and not see a newspaper stand where his face is not plastered all over the front of it, right? So he knows what they're talking about. But I think in general, managers, they're just like in a straight line, you know, and they don't know anything else until someone says, okay, you're no longer the manager anymore.
You need to have that in your repertoire, right, as a manager, being able to correct problems. It's problem solving.
Putting out
right?
fires.
Putting out, that's what you have to be able to do. And it just seems like fires keep popping up here, there. When he puts one out, another one comes up.
Is that self-inflicted? Like, do we feel bad for him at all?
Can I say,
yeah, of course
if
you
you
feel bad for him.
if you want to go out and get your players and they don't work out, that's going to go against you. So at some point, a lot of this is self-inflicted. The way he handles the media, I think he's taken such big swings from where he started to where he is now, and how much more aggressive he's gotten. But at the end of the day, you brought in your players. The club spent quite a bit of money, £600 million, if I'm not mistaken, roughly around that mark, to go out and get your guys, the guys you wanted. If that doesn't work out, that's on you.
At the end of the day, I think I will always, and I think this conversation will always go back to the bigger picture and who's at fault, right? Because Erik ten Hag can put up these numbers with Manchester United. He's had a pretty bad home losses. There's been damning moments. But we have to talk about getting the next hire right, which Manchester United didn't do the first time, they didn't do the second time, they didn't do it the third time, they didn't do it a fourth time, they didn't do it a fifth time, and they probably didn't do it a sixth time under Erik ten Hag after post-Alex Ferguson, right?
Look at these players.
So you've afforded this guy, you talk about change the infrastructure, change the makeup of Manchester United, and not even a guy that has brought in all of his players, tried to impose an entire philosophy, hasn't figured it out. So at the end of the day, like we talked about yesterday, I point at the leadership of Manchester United.
And the problem with changing, you saw some of those numbers, and there's probably whoever comes in next probably doesn't want half those players.
Of course not.
Right? So they're not, for whatever reason, they're not good enough, they're not your type of player. So you got to get rid of those guys, and then you got to go spend another, what is it, 600 whatever it is, whatever the number is, to make that guy happy. And, the initial number we saw with the games, we saw Sir Alex was like 1,500 games or whatever the number was. And then everyone's in like the hundreds. So the only constant there over the last 10 years has been change, right? They just keep changing managers. The cycle has to stop at some point. I don't know. Erik ten Hag's the guy to stop the cycle, though.
I'm going to just suggest a counter to what you said, which is at some point, if you are going to get rid of managers, how about you listen to them on the way out? Ralph Rangnick, you hired to oversee the club. Eventually, he took over on the sideline, and when he left, he was very clear, very open, and very public about the issues that stemmed from the bottom to the top, and none of those things have been changed seemingly. Sir Jim Ratcliffe comes in. What does he do? He fires 250 people. He's firing people that have been at the club for a long time that are pillars in this club. You've got a historian that was there for 40 years. You've got the kitman that was there for 25 years. They gave the kitman a kit with his name on it. That guy had to make his own gift, his own going away gift. Think about how disrespectful that is. And then stand there and take a picture with it. That's like they fire the chef, but hey, before you go out, why don't you make yourself a sandwich? It's ridiculous. You have someone told you what was the problem at the club. None of those things are fixed. If I'm Erik ten Hag, you know how I relax? I stand under a waterfall, which you can do and stand, what, 4? You know what I mean? Row 8? You can still do that in that stadium.
Alexis, does the fact that a lot of this falls on the club and how they have kind of mishandled everything, how much does that kind of almost save Erik ten Hag in the future from getting other jobs? You know, is he going to be able to be like, look, it wasn't me, it was this mess that they created and didn't fix? Like, is his stock...
Moyes got a job.
Yeah.
Jose got a job. Michael Carrick, who was an interim at the time, got a job.
Yeah, but what was the next step? Ole hasn't been coaching, but you think about all those managers that you mentioned. Who moved on to something better, or just
not a lot of bigger clubs,
just as prominent?
Yeah. Where are you going to go?
I would put right now the status of Manchester United. I would put a couple of clubs in European football at that same level. Obviously, historically, you would think Barça, Real, Manchester United. But you drop where Manchester United is at the moment. I would put them in the same conversation as Arsenal, as Milan, as Inter, as Atletico Madrid, as Bayern, as Dortmund. A top Mourinho then had to go on to Spurs, then Roma, then Fenerbahce. It feels like it's been trickling down. Ralf Rangnick, the Austrian national team, but he had that lineup. Van Gaal, Dutch national team, he's Dutch, but at the club level, it feels like Moyes never, ever since that moment, Moyes never stepped up. But at Sociedad, he managed
their
afterwards.
Only European trophy at his club, right? Their first ever, right, at West Ham. So, I mean, West Ham's a massive club. It's not like it's a small club.
Right, but he had to go to West Ham to do that. What I'm saying is, no manager since Ferguson has gone to United and their stock has grown.
Yeah.
It's
To your
always
point,
damaged their
Ferguson
stock.
got 5 years at the beginning of his start there, so
Yeah.
maybe there's time to everybody relax.
Yeah, I have the feeling we'll be talking about this for a while.